2 years ago, I packed my car, old Chevette, 84. Drove it till the engine smoked, hitched a ride through San Antone. Got a job, tending bar, let a senorita break my heart. I wanna sink my feet into some Illinois clay, walk along the cornfield in the cool of the day, get a dog and chase a rat.
Sit down, scoot at it, belly in.
Don't touch the table.
No touch the table. We've got GoPro.
Time to have a camera set up here.
Well, we graduated because now we've got 3 cameras. Camera 1.
Camera 2.
Camera 1.
Camera 2. Yeah. Okay.
No ways the world. All right, you ready to do this?
Yeah. What are we talking about? Hey, welcome to podcast number 3.
This is number 3. I think we are really excited because podcast number 1 was good. Podcast number 2, we hit a couple of flaws on the production side, but we're learning. And for me, that's the fun part, is people are getting to share in this journey of us learning. And but with this one, you know, we talked about the story, the history, everything about what got this thing kicked off. First and foremost, that was podcast number 1. Last podcast, we talked about Ground OS, and it was more of a deep in the weeds product demo, all the tool.
And we're going to be getting better demo footage of that too. We did learn that demo footage on the TV from the camera in the back doesn't turn out that well.
And we also learned that one solo cup in front of Chris might not be enough. So now he's got 2.
We established that on episode 1, I think, though.
And we also established you cannot have ice in the cups on podcast 1 because mics are very sensitive these days.
Correct.
So we are learning. We're getting better. We're thankful for everybody out there listening to join in on the journey. And, you know, we're down here, Pear Tree Studios, Fulton County, God's country. The sun is setting, which we didn't anticipate. So there's cardboard over the window, so we're not blinded.
I wish we could actually, we're gonna try one of these maneuvers. I don't know if to be able to see over there or not, but that is our window shade.
Yeah,
cardboard box.
It is cardboard
in the
box.
shop, which was good.
It's good.
I'm gonna go get that thing set back up. You know,
you'll be fine. You good?
Good.
Awesome. So for our 3rd podcast, we thought it'd be fun for both Brad and I to just talk about the journey, the misconceptions, all the fog of war around what we're doing. You know, we're on this journey. We're building a startup. We've been dubbed a disruptor. Oh, you're going to change an industry. Oh, you're going to ruin an industry. So rather than get really deep in the weeds, we just kind of wanted to reach out and talk and say, here's who we are. Here's what we do. There's a lot of misconceptions. Let's talk about it. Let's just have fun on this 3rd podcast and not go deep in the weeds and bore people with all the minutia and the software and all the tools that we provide to help people's lives and income streams get better. But let's just talk about it. So, I mean, I'm pretty excited for this one.
Yeah.
It's pretty casual.
What would you say misconception number 1 would be? I mean, there's a bunch of them. We've heard an impressive amount of, I mean, at times negativity that seems to typically turn around fairly quick. Once we're able to discuss with people and explain like what we're doing, that we're not here to ruin everything for farmers. We're not well,
that's the biggest misconception.
I would say,
oh, Chris and Brad, you created this product that is going to ruin farmers' lives.
I strongly disagree, but
I strongly disagree too. And I mean, back in the due diligence when we were planning this and thinking about it, and back in the napkin, and we were meeting and having lunch, it was like, whoa. If we're going to build a dual-sided marketplace, we need to talk to both sides of the marketplace. Mm-hmm. We need to talk to the landowners. We need to talk to the farmers. We need to talk to land brokers and get our head wrapped around just exactly what the landscape is.
But you remember when we started laying this out, that our number one concern was this, right? That the negativity that could be brought upon the entire idea from the farming community. And I believe that we've navigated well, but we've proven that it's not going to completely flip
over.
It's not. Yeah, it's just right.
And we've been at this game for a couple of years now. I don't know one farmer that has gone out of business because we're in business.
No, I would say, there's been farmers who have gotten new advantages or opportunities, I guess, not advantages.
They're embracing the technology.
They are, yeah. And they see it, they're utilizing it as a resource. I get that. But for the guys that, are on the other side of the coin, I understand the concern. But at the end of the day, it's not the system that does it. It's another operator. It's somebody else who pays it at a different scale. And
yeah,
you can tell you've had more run-ins probably at times than I have.
Well, but even early on when I got invited to speak down at FarmCon, mm-hmm. which Kevin Van Trump does a great job with FarmCon. If you're in the agricultural space, do yourself a huge favor. Get a ticket to FarmCon. It's probably one of the most insightful, high-level, low-level, mid-level, it is a great agricultural conference. And Kevin invited me to speak down there. It's the first week in January. So I remember this. I was actually down at Dixon Seafood parking lot getting ready to go in and buy a party tray for a Christmas party. Kevin calls me and he says, Chris, just want to warn you. I'm getting a little bit of pushback from some of the guests that you're going to be speaking down at FarmCon this year. I'm like, it's fine, no big deal. I've heard it all. I've been there, I've done this. I said, Kevin, I'm 6'4", 240 pounds. Never been in a fight in my life, probably because I'm that big and nobody wants to even entertain it. But I had no idea what I was getting into. And
it was a very kind warning. Say, just hey, hey, it's like, I think enough of you. I am going to give you a heads up.
I like you. I think what you're doing has some validity, but you're going to get some rocks thrown at you as soon as you get down here. So whatever, kind of blew it off. We get down there to Kansas City. First night, lobby bar, it ensues. There are a lot of unhappy farmers that I'm there getting ready to speak. I take a lot of verbal abuse. I do my best to let everybody know, hey, you can use this as an opportunity to grow your operation because we're going to give you kicks at ground that you never otherwise would have got a crack at. But the verbal beatings ensued, and I took it like a champ. But how did I open the speech the next day in front of 1,000 farmers?
It was good. Something along the lines of, I woke up this morning in my boxers, got up, go use the restroom, and as I'm walking through my hotel room, there's a mirror right before I go into the restroom.
Full-size mirror, luckily.
Full-size mirror.
Yeah.
And it's something along the lines of, so I turned and I looked at myself in my boxers in the mirror, and with a physique like this, I'd stop and look all the time probably too.
Yeah, but physical condition.
So he starts flexing in the mirror, looking at himself, talking to himself, and goes, you know what? After last night, I realized that I am the most powerful man in this entire room we're sitting in. And I'm watching this from the crowd, not knowing that he was going to say anything. I had no idea.
You know what was going to come out.
I didn't even know what you were talking about up there. I just thought it was neat that I got to watch and that I didn't have to be the one up there talking. So
like the point was, okay, if you're going to be abrasive with me and you're going to come at me, I'm going to come back at you. And if every single person that's coming up to me is telling me I'm going to ruin their entire life, imagine the power trip.
yeah.
Seriously. These guys live like 4th, 5th generation farmers.
That you're gonna run everybody out of business. Yeah, this guy.
Done.
This guy.
You're done. You're done. No. So seriously, that's how I opened up the speech was, I am the most powerful man in this room because I can put every single one of you out of business tomorrow with what I'm doing. And it was dead silent. You could hear a pin drop. And then I asked everybody, if you really truly believe that, raise your hand. And nobody raised their hand. And the ice was broken.
Yeah, it was well done.
The ice was broken because everybody thought what we were doing was going to upset the apple cart and disrupt the status quo. Well, I can see that perspective. Mm-hmm. But when you look at the crux of what we're doing, that's not what we're here to do.
No, it's the last thing we're here to do. I mean, to me, the farming side, the farmer tenant side of our business, and I've said this for a long time, there are some bad eggs out there. There's no doubt about it. And I think from the farmers that we're close with around here, some, farmers who have invested in our business, who like our business, stuff along those lines. I mean, they'll even say, sure, maybe here or there, like it does happen, this, that, and that. Well, we're not looking to run anybody out. We're just looking to at least offer the landowners a resource to where, like, there can be discussions had. Okay, absolutely. Like a little transparency in any market.
But what blows my mind is every single farmer, and we'll go through the ebbs and flows of the difficult touch points through this conversation, but what farmer doesn't want transparency? They want transparency on seed pricing. They want transparency on chemical pricing. They want to know they're getting the best pricing possible.
And so
you're a business owner.
But NFPN did it, right? They did it.
They're doing it.
Yeah, that's what they're offering to. That's their business
they've got
model.
5,000 farmers. I would give them a pat on the back.
Absolutely. They've done a good job. But
if the farming community is willing to say, hey, I enjoy price transparency.
55,000 farmers, according to FPN,
yeah,
right?
I enjoy price transparency. I want to know what chemicals should cost on the open competitive marketplace. I don't want the local guy pulling the wool over my eyes. Okay. But that goes both ways, and it's a two-way stream of why should your landowner not have price transparency? Why should your landowner not have tools like our cash estimate to provide price transparency in the marketplace to say, this is the going rate? So when you frame it in that context of why do you like it here, but you don't like it here?
It's a tough question to answer, though.
Exactly. But that's how you disarm the entire argument. And you literally put them on their heels and say, well, you don't have it both ways. You can't. What we do, it's open, transparent, and you get to compete for that business. Mm-hmm. Just like
any other business out there, right?
I mean, HVAC companies, plumbing companies, I tell every single person I go into, hey, I'm here to give you a bid on a new HVAC system. This is in my previous life. I encourage you to get 2 other bids. I won't be the cheapest. I'm not.
Sure.
I don't play the price game. I'll give you a price. I'll stand by it. I'll warranty the product. and I will be here for the next 20 years to follow through on the warranty, the service, take care of you. I won't be the cheapest. You make your decision as the homeowner. And that's what we do for the landowner, to say, hey, you've got your asset. You should have a list of qualified farmers that are willing to pay X, Y, and Z. You make the choice.
Yeah.
And this is what drives me nuts, is there is a huge trust factor within this whole thing we're doing. There's a lot of trust. I think a survey came out that said 70% of landowners trust their tenant farmer. Great. Awesome. They should. But when we talk to landowners that are getting paid $180 an acre, and they should be getting paid $400 an acre.
Yeah, on 140 PI, flat, drainer, rains well.
You're like, yeah, like, oh, okay. And it's like, well, you should be getting more. And it's like, well, I trust my farmer. You know, he brings me a turkey at Thanksgiving and plows my drive. And it's like, okay, well, you know, at the end of the year, do you cut him a check for $27,000 for Christmas?
Yeah.
Well, no, I wouldn't do that.
For that 90-acre tillable tract?
That's exactly what you're doing.
Correct.
And the relationship has got to find that equilibrium of, yes, I trust you, but also I should be getting a fair shake. And I don't want.
So are you saying that I mean, and this isn't every instance, are you saying that there are a portion of landowners out there who should not be trusting their current tenant?
Yes and no.
But does the lack of knowledge by the landowner?
You know me, I'm a huge rattle dragon geek. Trust but verify.
Sure.
Trust but verify.
I like that.
You should be on top of your game. Let's cut through the BS. If you own a 100-acre tract of ground that's all tillable in our state, in Illinois, in central Illinois, that can go anywhere from $10,000 an acre to $16,000-$17,000 an acre, depending on more activity index, or more. So you're sitting on a $1 million asset. As a landowner, if you are just carte blanche saying, you pay me whatever you want to pay and I'm going to take you at your word, that's a dangerous, dangerous spot to put yourself in moving forward if you're trying to maximize your return on your asset.
Yeah, if there ever comes a time where it goes through the children, something changes with it. If you don't have that ROI in line, I mean, it's been proven that in a lot of cases, if the ground isn't well taken care of, if the landowner hasn't had some sort of say, or have paired up with a quality farm management company that helps them out, that says, hey, we do need some field tile in here. This would greatly improve the farm. There's all sorts of different factors, but like soil sustainability to me is very, very important. So it's not just about price. None of this is just about price when it comes down to it.
When you say soil sustainability, and maybe you're just joining us for the first time and seeing this podcast number 3, like we're very focused on sustainability, because if you're not taking care of that asset and you're not protecting it, it's not increasing in value. And I always go back to my prior days, current days. I still own duplexes and rental property. It's like a tenant calling me and saying, I have a leaky roof. But me as a landlord, I'm not willing to put the money in to make it a sustainable investment.
Sure.
So it's no different for a landowner. Like there's things you can do to your property to make it worth more.
And we'll do a whole
invest in it. But what checks and balances are in place? And part of what got this kicked off was I realized it was like 40% of cash rental agreements are done on a handshake.
Sure. And they still are today.
We're talking multi millions of dollars. I mean, the cash rental industry is going to be 60, 70, 80 billion, depending on rental prices. That's still on a handshake? Seriously? Billions of dollars of transactions are done on a handshake? I can't sign a lease agreement on a commercial piece of property that's 800 square feet without a contract this thick with all the rules and regs and stipulations. And I said, whoa, this is backwards. This is backwards. And that's what we're here to do, is kind of reshape the whole narrative around an industry. And I've coined this, Jim actually coined it. The farming community has embraced technology. They've embraced it in the cab. They've embraced it in, GMO and all the seeds and, all this ag tech is kind of hit.
Well, look at precision planting.
Look, about our hometown.
Yeah.
My hometown. You're not there anymore, but precision planting, Morton, Illinois. They've absolutely built a huge business on technology and farming.
100%. And it's made drastic differences in yields. And that's another thing that we'll talk about, how yields continue to improve for a multitude of reasons.
Yes. And it's not a direct one-to-one, because yes, you got combines that are collecting, 25, 30% more yield. Should that be a 25, 30% bump in rental rate? No, because the cost of that equipment
Absolutely.
has gone up.
No, it's not 100% one to
The
one.
cost to the farmers are increasing. And we recognize that it's not just these guys are just making hay and their yields have gone up. They're, we get that.
The stuff's the equipment's expensive.
Yeah, overhead has increased as well.
But and I see it firsthand when I'm out, and I walk a lot of ground still and see a lot of stuff. But there are fields in the fall that I see, and I can probably in certain areas tell you who the tenant is on that farm out of maybe 3 or 4 guys in that area, based on what I see in the field.
Yeah.
After corn's harvested, after the beans are harvested. I mean, there's fields now where it's hard to find a kernel of corn. And I laugh that, for guys who are big deer hunters and stuff like that, like, man, like, I'm glad you're getting the higher cash rent, but like, these guys don't leave any food here for the animals anymore.
Where I had a farm,
The good ones.
that the beans were harvested 2 years ago, and it rained and we had a moderate fall, and it looked like the beans got replanted.
A whole field of beans.
A whole new field.
I know.
I'm like, well, how many beans got left on the
A
ground?
lot.
So that's the difference. So maybe you're a landowner out there and you're like, man, my farmer said he can only pay, arbitrary number, $200 an acre. But then you've got another farmer up the road that might be willing to pay $300 because he's got better equipment.
Sure. It may, yeah.
Like, farming is a business.
Sure.
And that's what most people don't understand. They get all these feel-good commercials and, the NFL Super Bowl, so God made a farmer. And
It's good.
It's just, they're growing food for the world. But the underbelly of the industry is farming is a business.
It is a business.
There are really, really, really good farmers out there. Mm-hmm. They have the best equipment, whether that's planting, harvesting, their spraying practices, their fertilization practices, whatever the case may be. We talk to guys all the time. Dude, it's all in how you market your grain. Like,
We hear that a lot now.
you can put seed in the ground, you can harvest it. If you don't know how to market grain, that'll make or break you. So there's a lot of dynamics that go into this industry that Brad and I are learning every single day. The deeper and deeper we get into this,
The more operators we talk to, something's different all the time.
But I think
It's been really interesting to learn, though.
that's a very important point. We talk to a lot of operators.
A lot. I mean, we go out, or I go out of my way I try to ask every farmer that I run into, which is, I would say every day of the week I run into a farmer. I have a discussion with a farmer.
Yes.
And I'm always just trying to learn. One of local guys the other day. Finally, God willing, we finally are getting rain enough to make up for the half of May, the entire month of June here in central Illinois anyway. But I had asked him prior to this rain coming, the beginning of July, like, you know, hey, what is the end result here if this rain doesn't come?
We went like 6.5 weeks without rain.
Correct. Yeah.
At a very crucial time. And corn and beans are completely different. And, you know, what did he tell you?
Well, he just said basically, you know, he remembered it back in the 80s there where the drought actually lasted for 3 years, more or less. And so he just said, he goes, it was pretty much complete, you know, loss for the most part on some of it. And he said that, you know, hey, like the darker, the better soils, they've got 5 to 7 days. But the lesser stuff probably has 3 days at best, if it doesn't get any rain, the lighter soils. And somehow amazingly, like it rained like 2 days later or something. It hasn't stopped raining since. But you can see it in the crops out there that the beans are finally starting to fill out. Some of them are flowering already at kind of a short height. It'll be interesting. But that's what this guy was saying. Basically, he goes, honestly, this has been the first year that he's ever been around farming where it was an ample long-term drought like that, where it was about to just ruin everything. And then all of a sudden you get all the rains, you get these cooler temps at times and he goes, it's just such an odd weather year that it will be very interesting to see what these yields shake out at. Yeah. Nobody's seen a year like this.
What he was saying was what might have saved the crop was the cooler nights.
At times, yes.
So we had the cool nights, but be that as it may, going back to, we talked to a lot of growers, we talked to a lot of great operators, and you know, we're telling stories, we're talking about misconceptions. Just to bring it back, that's the biggest misconception, that we're here and we're going to ruin the farming.
No, we want to learn from them. Like, I mean, a lot of them are our friends. You know, I mean, extended families. That's not what
farmers. We've had a group of growers in this pear tree studio
couple
times the last 2 weeks
to do nothing other than we want to invite you over, which we did, and they love coming. We just want to talk. Like, we want to talk farming with you guys, and they love to talk farming. They love talking insurance. And
the full misconception is we're here to destroy the farm.
Yep.
It's not it at all.
No.
You can turn that on its head. That's not it at all. What we want to do is we've created a dual-sided marketplace, help farmers grow, give them an opportunity to grow their operations if they so choose, give them a kick at ground that they never otherwise would have heard of. But also we listen to them and say, what can we be doing as a company? Because I've preached this to you and I preach it to the entire team. We are a dual-sided marketplace. We need landowners and we need farmers. If we don't drive value to both parties, we lose.
Well, everybody loses at that point. The whole system doesn't work without one or the other working.
Correct. And in any dual-sided marketplace, you have to have both sides. Yep. So if we're not taking care of the farmer, if we're not driving value to the growers out there who are our friends and who we hang out with, we're not going to win. And then the landowner isn't going to win. And then all of this was for naught.
Sure.
So I know you do. I know I do. I know our entire team does. We wake up every single day. How can we drive value for the farmers, the growers? How do we drive value for the landowners? How do we make this work? And it goes back to, that's why we set up High Bid Doesn't Win.
Yeah, but it's pioneering. This hasn't been done before, okay? And so we're trying to navigate this as well as we can.
Slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah.
We will race forward an inch at a time.
Sure. But, you know, I think we've done a good job of making sure that we are bringing value to both sides. And, you know, it's an added bonus for everyone, really. There'd be farmers that would say, I absolutely love this. There's still going to be folks that say, I hate this. which is fine. I don't expect to, and we're not running.
Some people hate Walmart.
We're not running for mayor. Like
People hate Walmart.
Correct.
Like, but
I hate Walmart.
Yeah.
But I really do. Yeah.
I know you do.
But
It's at the end of the day, we know there's some bad offenders out there.
there are. And I mean, I've said it a couple times to where,
Like some of these guys should be in jail.
I think we've mentioned that before. We've had those discussions that we have seen. I mean, I've seen it firsthand. I don't think that if you asked anybody and gave you an honest opinion in the farming community, do you know anybody who is truly, truly taking advantage of somebody? And if I believe that, I mean, out of the folks we talked to, I've never heard anyone say, yeah, no, everybody's straight up. No, it's more of a, yeah, there are probably that sort of talk, which is fine. We understand that, but it happens in I'm sure plumbers take advantage of people, electricians take it. It happens everywhere.
It's business.
But at least we give folks an opportunity now and outside of going and talking by themselves, it's an easy tool to utilize just to understand what you got.
Absolutely.
And shop it around a little bit.
We talked about the misconception for a farmer's point of view. I think we've expressed our feelings. We're here to drive value for them. We're here to give them more opportunity to grow their operation. Are there going to be feelings hurt along the way? Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. And we have landowners that call us and say, hey, I'm getting X. What do you think I should be getting? We were on a cash rent estimate. You should be getting X. And it's like, well, I don't want to upset my tenant partner. You don't have to. Let him know you're going to put it on an open, transparent marketplace and let him bid on it. And if he can continue to farm, awesome.
We've had multiple guys stay on the farm.
And they weren't even high bidder.
Correct. Yeah, no, they never were high bidder, but they got to stay on the farm.
Correct.
But they jumped it up to where it should have been without even the awkward conversations. Okay, here's what I'm really, really willing to pay. If these are good, and maybe because I like this landowner, I farmed this ground for the last 12 years, like I want to stay on this. So I am going to pay a little bit more than maybe even I'm truly comfortable, but I can offset it with another one down the road. I'll be okay. This will all shake out fine. I can stay on this farm, make sure now my landowner's happy. We've got a much better rapport together.
Yes.
And everything works out.
But we've also run into scenarios where tenant farmer says, I can't pay any more than $220 an acre. Okay, well, I'm going to put it up on CommonGround. Bid hits 300. That current tenant farmer's bidding 300 because he doesn't want to lose.
We've seen that a lot, yeah.
So it's almost like calling a bluff or forcing the hand to say, no, we're going to take care of our asset. We're going to provide an opportunity to give everybody a fair kick at this. If you're willing and able and ready to compete in this environment, place a bid.
Yeah.
Even if high bid's 340 and you're at 320,
You can still, even if it's at 340, you can still bid 300.
I'm going to take your 320 bid, even though it's $20 farm.
Sure.
But I know you, I like you, you farm my ground.
Yep.
But I got you up to the going rate. I'm happy. You're still farming the ground.
Without having to do the song and dance.
Correct. So we've touched on the farmer misconception. What about landowner misconception?
I would say there's a substantial group that probably is hard on us on the landowner side as they are on the farmer side. That
we get a lot of blowback from landowners.
There's no way this works. This is a sham. This is a scam. There's no way it can be 100% free for me as a landowner. I don't believe your numbers are correct. There's a long list that we hear. And the fact is that we do see an average increase of 39.5% landowner ROI.
Across the board.
And that's not typically the high bidder who gets that. And so those are our numbers are based off awarded bidder. And so it's actually probably higher than that realistically. Well, I know it is higher than that.
It is.
No, there's got to be some hidden expense. Me being the landowner, you offering me the service for absolutely nothing makes no sense to me. Okay. Well, the fact is it does cost you. It costs you absolutely nothing. There's no hidden anything at the front. There's no hidden anything at the back. We take care of the lease agreement for you digitally. We take care of all of the bidding throughout the entire process. We can put your property up and list it for you. We can help you manage that transaction all the way through from front to finish. We can help you put some stipulations in there maybe that you're not aware of as a landowner. Like, hey, I would like to have, absolute every year yield data sent to me. I would like to make sure that no, I know it is. And it's a whole nother topic. It's a whole nother topic. But it's part of, for the landowner, it's one of the things that is just part of the lease agreement through the platform, so on and so forth. But there's a whole bunch of stuff that we can help with, like, hey, we would like to make sure that the road ditches stay tidy. We would like to make sure that the fence line is either kept up if the fence line is desired to stay there, or maybe, part of the deal is taking that out. If the landowner is potentially a hunter, okay, hey, no problem. It's been kind of awkward conversations a lot of years for you. I want him to leave 3 acres. Well, he actually ends up leaving like 1.5 acres. And then FS came in and, they accidentally sprayed your clover plot in the back cove there because they thought it was weeds, stuff like that, that you specifically lay this out so everybody knows exactly what the deal is. And there's no odd conversations. If you spray my stuff, if you till my food plot that you're supposed to be leaving sand, this is all part of the deal. And so everybody knows what they're getting before they get into the agreement. And it just makes the whole situation a whole lot easier. That I've had instances where tenants not following instructions on, say, hey, I need to have 100 yard by 100 yard wide around a goose pit out in a field that doesn't get chisel plowed. Okay. Does it happen year one? No, it doesn't. Does it happen year two after discussing sending maps? No, it doesn't. Does it happen and so it just creates a really, really bad relationship between whoever is either, utilizing that property, owns it.
Goose pit I lease.
Correct. It would be.
That he chisel plowed.
Is that one? Yeah. But, but it just causes unnecessary riff and, it's a bad relationship. The relationship between the tenant, landowner, maybe they have that ground because they do, it provides them income. It was a good investment, but they utilize it for other resources as well. They like to goose hunt, duck hunt. They like to deer hunt, so on and so forth. And that's a big portion of why they have that property, why they spend so much money on. And so in cases where, the tenant who has to understand they're leasing that ground, they do not own that ground. That ground is theirs to farm and follow the instructions of the landowner who owns that ground. The farmer doesn't own the ground.
When I sign up a tenant to lease a duplex,
they don't own your house.
You do not own this house. Here's the rental agreement. These are the rules you abide by. I own this asset, and you are just renting it.
That's it.
And
you don't
I don't see that frame of mind with landowners right now of feeling in control to say, whoa. This is mine. I own it. Mm-hmm. But I think there's this FOMO of, what am I missing out on? Or fear of the unknown, or can another farmer come in and farm this? Because there hasn't been a resource like this up to this point. Hence the reason I created it.
Mm-hmm. But I think a lot of landowners are probably intimidated by their farmer too. That in the aspect of they don't know what's there, and so if the tenant tells you something as a landowner, you don't know any better. So are you going to argue? Are you going to say no? I disagree with that.
No, because you're uneducated.
That's it. So how can you argue? You have no leverage. Whatever they tell you is what you have to believe because it's the best resource that you have.
Yeah, I trust my farmer. And I trust
because you don't know anything about it.
Well, prior to us launching this, there was no good resource, and this is what drove me nuts when I went into this was, I'm going to find all this data, because you know me, I'm an entrepreneur. I build businesses. I like solving problems. When I went into it, I said, I'm going to find out what my ground's worth. Well, there was no resource. Mm-mm. Oh, well, You can go get the American Society of Land Professionals publication of county averages of cash rent.
And learn it. I mean,
They print, the USDA gives you the cash rental rate average per county. It's BS.
but in Fulton County, there is 142 PI ground and there's 70 PI ground.
And it's self-reported.
Is it all 220 acres?
So the USDA sends...
Or is it all 220 an acre?
I don't know.
I mean, I've got ground in Fulton County. Should I be getting 220?
I mean, you and I both agree the United States government is the most well-oiled machine, efficient thing out there. No, it's not. It's an albatross that absolutely is terrible.
Terrible.
So these ag extensions in these universities say, oh, here's your county average. How do they derive at the county average?
Can I answer that one?
They mail through the United States Postal Service that greases their skids a survey to say, what do you pay in cash rent on average? Well, I'm a farmer. I'm not going to be honest.
Wait, you're not going to say you're paying more or a higher?
Yeah, I pay 180. That's the county average. Like, nope. Keep her down. Keep her down. So it just, and by the time all this data is digested, and
But it's only data from one side of the equation.
it's
And that's how it's data that's even usable
it's garbage in, garbage out.
every time.
Every time. So how can a 125 PI in Fulton County average be 200 an acre? And then you got another county with an average of 125 PI that's kicking off the same yield, the same crop, be 300. The yield's the yield.
Correct.
The price of corn, the price of beans is, like, you had these finite answers, but the data, it's just this tornado of misinformation that drove me absolutely mad as a landowner to say, well,
It's bad data, but it's the only data out there is the hard part.
it was the only data.
only data.
It was the only data out there. So that was the reason for the cash rent estimate to say, Chris, Brad, your data team, you did the homework. We know that this ground with this PI in this area,
County by county.
county by county,
I tell a lot of people that, though. Keep in mind that, a 120 PI in Fulton County, Illinois, may be a different value than a 120 PI in Sangamon County, Illinois.
but why is that?
Well, it's because out of that, what makes up that 120 PI, all those different soils that are in it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, some soils are still more productive than others. And so
Yes.
you have to look down, just because the math comes out to 120, that's not all the same soil types making up that 120 average.
Yep.
You might have, 60% of a Ipava loam, a 10% of a sable, which is going to, really jump. And so it's all, just because 120 in County A isn't necessarily equivalent to a 120 in County B because of a multitude of factors, but that's what we've been able to break down and put these values to at the county level. Yes.
The other good thing about our cash rent estimate is we're taking real-time data and backing it back into the equation to say, no, this farm in this county with this yield and these soils actually just rented on the fair market for X. Data point gets plugged back in.
As long as you know the yields. The yield's challenging.
The yield's very challenging, but
why is it so quiet? Why do the farmers keep that so close? It's an honest, I'd ask that to any farmer. Like, why can't you tell me how many bushels of corn came out of my field this year?
If you own farmland and you rent farmland, if you are not getting your yield data, you are making a huge mistake.
And it's going to cost you dearly down the road.
Dearly. Absolutely. And
if that's through us, I don't care who's through, but that discussion should be had across the board. Every landowner should at least have the discussion with his farmer. I would like to have my yield data every year. Nothing else. It's neat to be able to store and see, hey, year to year, just for fun data to look at. You know, hey,
I had a great year this year.
I had a great. Why? Well, to me, like, I'd go look into that. Okay, like, what was different this year? Is it a different seed you used? Did you fertilize more this year? Did the weather cooperate better? What was different this year than last year? Because I'm seeing 20% increase in my.
Hey, maybe it was great weather.
Who knows? But I do believe that down the road, at the time that somebody's going to sell that piece of property or needs to.
And now you're putting on your land broker hat because you're a land broker and you deal with this every day.
When somebody goes to sell their property and they have real, actual yield data, it is so much easier to sell that farm, especially a predominantly tillable tract, in the aspect that we can look at the PIs, we can run soil tests, we can do all this. But I've seen, and I think farmers will obviously agree here in some cases, that just because you have a high PI and the soil looks like it's in good shape, there's just some fields that simply do not produce like others.
You're not taking into account topography, drainage.
Sure.
There might be low spots.
There's a lot
of variables, but the yield data speaks volumes and it tells the story of the asset class.
It's the cliff notes of your farm.
Yeah.
Realistically.
If you want to sell that asset and you go, I get 270 bushel corn. That's my 3-year average.
That's all you have to do.
That's all you have to show.
That's it. There's not a whole lot else that matters. Here's 2020, 21, 22.
So the takeaway for the landowners out there, because we aim to educate and inform, you better be getting your yield data from
data.
And
they can take it straight off the.
I'll get some slack for this, but any farmer that says he doesn't have the yield data, he's either running 35-year-old equipment or he's blowing smoke, because yield data comes through every machine nowadays.
It does. And there is, there's some, depending on, how high the moisture content is, and there are some factors in it, but as long as it's relative of sorts that you can do some math and compare, it's still fairly relative. It's going to get you in the park. And then, as a landowner, and which I believe is why farmers are hesitant at times to give up this information, is, if I'm a very ill informed landowner, well, I find out that I'm getting 200 bushel corn per acre. Mm-hmm. I have 100 acres of ground.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if I run that math and I multiply that by the current price of corn,
mm-hmm.
here's the total number that my farm produced this year. Now, if I back out $550, $600 an acre for the tenant to plant the corn,
input costs, everything associated with it,
and then, but there's still going to be a gap there of what's left.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's covering his.
But the old rule of thumb is a third, a third, a third.
Sure,
that's the old back of the napkin. Third to the farmer, third to the landowner, third for inputs and getting them planted.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a fair shake.
Sure.
So if you got the yield and you know the harvest price, and on average it's $550, $600 depending on the year and input costs, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to bash.
It's pretty straight.
It's pretty straightforward to be like, whoa, that third, a third, a third is now.
I'm getting 10 and you're getting 480.
That's not a third and a third.
Correct. No, it's just not.
Yeah. So
it's important to get your yield data as a landowner. End of story. It's very simple. And that would be
the other important thing for landowners to take away from this, as we aim to educate, get soil tests done. Make sure your asset is being well maintained. And we got blowback from that right out of the gate. Oh, you're just going to take the highest cash rent and they're not going to take care of the soil.
They're going to mine it.
No. In every lease, and this was real fun argument. Well, the guy that's paying $450 an acre for that, he's just going to mine it and he's going to run it for 2 years, rape the ground. Okay, but in every contract that's digitally signed through our platform, the tenant farmer has to provide on an annual basis, here's the current soil conditions, soil testing is done, and I need to provide evidence annually that it is being maintained or improved. And I had a farmer tell me, well, they can fudge that. They can do whatever. Well, how do you ensure that? And I looked at him and I said, well, how does a landowner do it on a handshake?
Correct.
It's better than a handshake.
Your odds are better to have it in writing.
Yes.
Yes. Now, yeah, we can't, like, I can't guarantee that anybody's going to do anything. Okay. But at least
it's the old Tommy Boy thing. It's the old Tommy Boy.
Sure.
You take a dump in a box and mark it guaranteed, but like, okay, guaranteed for what?
Yeah.
It's your contract through the platform at least gives you a leg to stand on to say, hey, where's my soil sample this year? Where is my evidence that you maintained or improved my sustainability?
And if the farmer pushes back on doing that, no problem. As a landowner, I would highly, highly recommend pay for the nutrient and soil sample yourself. Pay for it. It gives you peace of mind. If you get pushback from the farmer. Now, if the farmer is doing what he's supposed to do,
he's not going to push back.
No reason to push back.
No, and the pushback is like a red flag.
I would say.
Yeah.
I mean, if somebody's saying, no, we don't need to do that. It's unnecessary. No, it's not.
No, it's not.
It's my farm, and
because what does soil sample cost? $400 or $500?
Yeah, depending on the.
So you're getting $200 an acre, 100 acres. You're getting $20,000. $400 to get a soil test done annually. Pretty cheap insurance to ensure that your asset is being taken care of and maintained. So
if it's not, then at least you have something to have a discussion about.
Yeah.
Right now, without it, I can't speak to anything.
Yeah. And
depending on where the report comes from, some are easier to read and understand than others are. But, if it's nutrient or if whoever's running these soil tests, I would be willing to bet that if the landowner is paying for that they would be more than happy to explain to you, this is what this is what these maps show with these different shades. Here's the potassium level, all the way down the board. Mm-hmm. And they're honestly going to be very happy to discuss with you, because if you find that the correct applications are not being put on because the tenant's skimping on it, well, guess what? The guy at Nutrien who just did that and figured that out for you, I guarantee that somebody, whether this is your tenant or the landowner, is pouring a bunch of fertilizer onto that farm. Yeah. Okay? It's coming from somebody. But
fertilizer is going to get sold.
Fertilizer is getting sold. Yeah, without a doubt. So they're going to be helpful. It's hard to not feel intimidated by this stuff that some people just don't understand. But the vast majority, everybody that we've been around throughout the entire, industry in the farming community, mm-hmm. Everybody's very, very open to help.
Absolutely. No, and and we paint a broad brush when we talk and have these discussions, because it really hasn't been a pointed discussion. It's just been a overarching theme of misconceptions and what is it that we do. But yes, there's some bad people out there. There's bad people in every industry. So if you're in this industry, your only defense is to educate and inform yourself. Reach out to us at CommonGround. If you call a CommonGround number on the website, it comes to this cell phone right here. No ifs, ands, or buts. It doesn't go to a secretary in a high-rise in Chicago. We're just local guys.
It might go to side.
it comes here.
No, I know, but worst case scenario, like you might route them to somebody who might be able to even
The expert on our team.
Ferguson, somebody along those lines.
Absolutely. But reach out to us. The whole premise of what we're doing is to educate and inform landowners to maximize their ROI and give farmers an opportunity to grow their operations. And that's what we're doing. That's why we're here doing a podcast. That's why we're having story time that we got to put a real tight wrap on, because I'm ready to throw some steaks on the tray here.
That's sweet. This was fun.
It was fun. I'm really happy that we chose to go this route for the podcast. And thanks everybody for listening and joining in. Hopefully took some nuggets away and fire it well. But as always, as tradition continues for our third episode, I'd like to thank all of my sponsors, or our sponsors. We don't have any, but I will reference LGTVs, Pollywood Tables, and Red Solo Cups.
Also, don't forget, check out Joe Stan Band. If you have not heard the Joe Stan Band, there are podcasts. They're going to be the official music throughout the entire Common Ground podcast until we run out of Joe Stan songs. He's got like 100 awesome ones. So check him out. They're awesome.
Joe Stan Band, and Joe's from Metamora, originally Metamora, Illinois. Great band, just great, good local country music. So he agreed to do our intro and outro for this podcast, which we're very thankful for. Good guy, great music. Maybe Copenhagen.
Yeah.
We forgot our sponsor.
Yeah.
Or our would-be sponsor. But anyways, thanks to everybody for joining us. Really appreciate you tuning in. Friendly reminder, go join the Common Ground community on Facebook. We're just going to have a really good time doing this podcast. We want your feedback. We want your input. Feel free to sling arrows. We're getting ready to have some pretty exciting guests. We've got huge news coming up with a new product that we're going to be rolling out with the Common Ground Insurance Group. So that'll be the focus of our next podcast. But thanks, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.